So I'm Graeme Healey, been the owner of Frontenac Cycle for 8 years now. I'm the head honcho, you might say. Welcome to our video on how to get your bike ready for the winter. I mean, we've got a fat bike with us, so we're going to use that as the example, but a lot of the stuff is interchangeable with your commuter bike. I mean, the big thing with winter riding is there's a lot more muck and guck, so you really want to make sure that everything is clean and well lubricated. So for cleaning and lubricating purposes, in the shop we use metal protector. It is a relatively inexpensive and good quality degreaser. I'm going to spray this just right over here and help get that lubricated. And you want to cycle through the chain, 3 or 4 times, get everything covered up. And you just take your rag, hold the underside of the chain. It's a lot easier than holding the top side, and just pedal through. Again, backwards. You can even do it forwards if you want. So if you want to go a little bit further with it, you can use the metal brush to remove some of the more stuck-on bits of crud, I guess we can call it crud, on the chain, and then I'll just pedal through. The home mechanic can certainly use a chain cleaning tool, and the way it works is you want to have your chain so that it's nice and level. If you do have a stand at home, there should be an angle adjust on your bike on the clamp. So keeping that level will help keep the fluid inside the chain cleaning tool from spilling out from one end to another. Once you've got it in half, you're just gonna clamp it on like so. And then you'll see there's a little fill line here, and we're just gonna fill in some of the fluid. Basically what's happening is as you pedal the chain through, these brushes are going to be bringing up the chain, the degreaser, and it's going to get into your chain. So through like so. So there's brushes inside here that are cleaning in between the narrow and the thick holes at the top. And there's also a brush, a wheel here that has bristles on the side that clean the side plate. All right, so next we're gonna clean the cassette. One little tip that I would tell the home mechanic is make sure you cover up the rotor. Any kind of plastic bag or even a clean rag would also work. And I'm just gonna wrap that up just so that none of the cleaning spray that I put on here, which is actually also a little bit of a lubricant, doesn't get on the rotor. And then also you want to lean the wheel away so that the drips don't fall towards the rotor. You want to have them falling away. Spray that, spin it around. Dun, dun, dun. So the way I do it is, shake that off. The way I do it is taking a rag and then basically just flossing. So basically just pull the fabric tight and slide it between the cog, and then you can kind of just work its way around, almost like a musical instrument. So for us in the shop, we use the compressor to do the final cleaning bit, just because a good blast of air is the most effective way to blow all the dirt and oil off. The next little part of the drivetrain that we'll focus on at the rear derailleur is the jockey wheels. What you want to do is you want to take a flathead screwdriver and you want to move the jockey wheel and scrape along the jockey wheel like so, and that's gonna be the most effective way to scrape off the hardened layer of gunk. So again, just getting all the gunk off both jockey wheels, just gonna keep everything clean and moving smoothly. Other parts of the derailleur to keep an eye on would be pivot points. So if the pivot points, so on this one you can see there's pivot points here, there's a pivot point here, and there's a pivot point here. Unlock that, there's a pivot point there. So all those spots where the derailleur pivots are important to clean and to oil. Get your lubricant in there. I'd also normally let that sit a little bit before I, like on a bike that was maybe dirtier or had more, I'm using the word crud a lot, so if it had more crud on it, I would let that, that lubricant set in a little bit more before using the compressor, just to give it that time to break it down. But for this, for the purpose of the video here, we'll just let that go like that and spray. So along with the jockey wheels and the pivot points on the derailleur, you do also want to make sure that the limit screw and the B-tension screw are lubricated and cleaned as well. For example, if your hanger gets bent in, you want to be able to lock out the gear so that the derailleur doesn't go into the spokes. And to be able to do that, you have to have screws that move freely and work properly. So again, just squirting some lubricant in there, blowing it out with the air compressor, and then wiping it down with a rag is all you need to do. What we're going to do is we're going to undo the cable at the rear derailleur here. We're going to pull that out, and then we're just going to pull the housing all the way out. So before we blow it out, we're just going to take our can of MP with the hose attachment, and we're just going to spray a little bit of lube through. That's going to leave it dry enough that you shouldn't have issues with water pooling, and it's going to keep things lubricated so the cable still slides through smoothly. And we're just going to route the cable back through. So I'll pull the cable tight and then tighten that back down. This is just the regular procedure for putting the cable back on your derailleur. This isn't winter specific, so we won't go into too much detail here, but put a little cap on the end of your cable and you should be good to go. Next thing we're going to look at is the brake pads. Obviously that is an area that is also going to see a lot of extra grit and grime throughout the winter, so you will have to stay on top of cleaning those a little bit more frequently. And so these guys here just use a cotter pin to hold them in place. So you just take some needle nose pliers and flatten them out. Use my right hand. So pull out the pin. Don't lose it. As you can see, we've got our pads here. They don't look too bad. There's no grooves or scoring on the pad, and so what we would do with that is we would just take some sandpaper, put the sandpaper on the bench. As you can see, the brake pads are a little bit dark and dingy, so in order to clean those up, we're just going to have our sandpaper on our counter here, and just with our hands in a circular motion, just kind of rub that until you get that kind of look to it. We've had the brake pads out, we've cleaned the rotor, we've cleaned the pads. Make sure that the inside of the caliper is also clean, and again, just getting rid of any little bits of grime and grease. That's nice and clean, and now we can put the pads in. Just as important as cleaning the brake pads, it's also important to clean the rotor. So we'll put a little bit of that on a clean rag. So a little bit of alcohol on the rag, and we're just going to go around and give a thorough clean. So as you can see, our clean rag, getting a little bit dirty there, so clearly there was some gunk to clean off there. The same process that we did for cleaning the back brake, the rotors and the pads, is going to be the exact same for the front. Just pop your pads out, wipe them down with the sandpaper, compressor, and alcohol on the rotor. You know, spots on the bike that can be susceptible to corrosion. One of which is the spoke nipples in the spoke. So keeping those clean and lubricated to prevent that is really important. So this is where maybe a little bit more elbow grease is required. You do have to kind of get in with your hand and really floss around those nipples. So once you've got that nice and clean, use a little bit of our MP. And so this is just gonna help prevent corrosion. This is good preventative maintenance, and you just want to go around the whole wheel doing the same thing to each spoke. All right, so hopefully this video has been helpful to teach you a few things about bike maintenance for winter specific stuff. A lot of the things we did cover are perfectly sensible for non-winter riding as well. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below, and we'll make sure we get to you. Thanks. Woo! Woo! Wearing the balaclava has given me a bit of bike head, I guess.